Hey there. Okay, so we're going to be talking about ordering fractions, okay, with different denominators, okay? Um, in this particular case, we're going to organize it from least to greatest, okay? So for me, there's always a couple of things I want to do, especially at first. For me, especially at first, I like to kind of write down the order it's going in. So here it's from least to greatest. So I'm just going to give myself an L with an arrow going to the greatest, my least valuable fraction to my greatest fraction. Okay? Um, One of the big things we need to do is find some type of relationship between all of our denominators. Our denominators are going to be the numbers on the bottom. In this case, it's going to be 3, 2, 4, 6, and 12. Okay? 3, 2, 4, 6, and 12 are all factors of 12. And we call this our lowest common denominator. Okay? There are a couple of ways to find it, and I'm going to show you both ways, okay? The lowest common denominator is going to be a number that all of these can be multiplied into. They can all go into larger numbers, obviously, but we are looking for the lowest common denominator, okay? So what I'm going to do is find the LCD, or like I said, the lowest common denominator. Okay? And again, we're looking for a number all of these denominators have in common that they can all be multiplied into. Okay? So let's start with the first one. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'll have to change this fraction, I'll have to change this fraction, I'll have to change this fraction, I'll have to change this fraction. But this fraction, because it already has a 12 as its denominator, I'm going to go ahead and leave it as the same. I'm going to box it in because that's what I'm going to do with all of my equivalent fractions, okay? Now, in order to make an equivalent fraction, all I'm going to do is rewrite the fraction, but extend the fraction bar. This is what's called an EFT table, okay? Or not EFT table, I guess EFT, because the T stands for table. And this is equivalent fractions, okay? I'm going to extend my fraction bar just by a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip count by the value of my numerator, which in this case is 2, every time I go to a new numerator. Okay, so we can do that now. Skip counting by 2s, it's going to be 2, 4, 6, and 8. I'm going to skip count by the value of my denominator, which is the number on the bottom here. So if we skip count by 3s, then 3, 6, 9, 12. Well, our common denominator is a 12, so I'm just going to box that in to know that I now have a fraction I can compare my 5/12ths with. Okay, let's do the same thing with 1/2. I'm going to write 1/2. And I am going to extend that fraction bar. One more. All right, same thing here. We're going to skip count by the value of my numerator. In this case, our numerator is 1. So we're just going to skip count by 1 until we get to the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the bottom. I'm going to skip count by the value of my denominator. Here it is 2. So every time I jump, I'm counting by 2s. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So I found that common denominator of 12. I'm going to go ahead and box it in. So now I have a equivalent fraction I can actually compare. I'm going to look at my next one, which is 3/4, okay? 3/4. I'm going to extend my fraction bar. Skip count by the value of your numerator, which in this case is a 3, 6, 9. And skip count by the value of your denominator, which is 4, 4, 8, 12. Again, we found that common denominator, so we can just box that in just like that. The last fraction we need to find an equivalent fraction for, or a lowest common denominator for, it's going to be, 5/12. 5, sorry, my bad. 5/6. Silly me. We're going to skip count by the value of our numerator, which in this particular case is a 5. So 5, 10. And we're going to skip count by the value of our denominator, 6, 12. Again, now we have these equivalent fractions, and now we can actually compare them from least to greatest. So if we're thinking about fractions, it's always parts of a whole. Part of a whole, what you need versus what you have. So we all need 12, but they have different parts to that. And we're ordering it from the least to greatest. So we're looking at fractions that are basically least complete right now. And I would say that 5/12 is going to be my least complete fraction. So that's what I'm going to write down. I'm going to say 5/12 will be my smallest value. Okay, now I'm going to look at my next smallest value. What would come after 5/12? I see 8, 6, 9, and 10. 6/12 will be my next one. Because remember, we're moving up from least to greatest. 6 is smaller than, or 5 is smaller than 6. That's why 6 would be next in line. Okay, so we're good there. After 6 would be 8, 8/12. After that would be 9/12. And after that would be 10/12. Now, this is our equivalent fractions. They may not always do that. So, keep in mind that you always want to identify your original fractions, okay? So 5/12 was an original fraction. That can stay the same. 6/12 is really half. Eight twelfths is really 2/3. 9/12 is really 3/4. And of course, 10/12 is really 5/6. So that is one way to do it. Okay. I will show you a second way right now. I'm going to keep these fractions in mind, okay? We're still going to keep the same, well, I'll just write it on the same paper. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to use the same fractions, okay? It's going to be a little easier this time, though. I'm going to say 2/3, 1/2, 3/4, 5/6, and 5/12. Now, we already talked about how the common denominator in this particular case is going to be 12. So now we're going to think, and we can use our EFT to help us, right, about what we can use to multiply our denominator by to get 12. Now remember, what we multiply our denominator by, we have to multiply both our denominator and our numerator, okay? So 3 times what gets me 12? Well, if I go here, I can say that's 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, 3 times 4. So I'm going to write times 4. I'm going to multiply my numerator and my denominator by 4. That now gives me 8 over 12, exactly what we got on the first one up here. Okay? Same thing for the half, right? We know our common denominator is 12, so we need to think about 2 times what will give us 12. This is 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4, 2 times 5, 2 times 6. So we're going to multiply this fraction by 6, and we're going to multiply both our numerator and our denominator. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. And we'll do the same thing for the next one, 3/4. 4 times what will give us 12? This is 4 times 1, 4 times 2, 4 times 3. 4 times 3, we multiply our numerator and our denominator. 3 times 3 gives us 9. 3 times 4 gives us 12. 5/6. 6 times what will give us 12? 6 times 1, 6 times 2. So we add a 2 there, and we multiply by both, 10 over 12. And now you can see that you can organize 5 12s, 10 12s, 9 12s, 6 12, 8 12s in order. So these are 2 different ways. One is called an equivalent fraction table. That's this one right here, equivalent fraction table. Okay, I'm sorry that's a little scrunched up in there, but equivalent fraction table. This is a good way to order fractions. Fractions can also look like decimals, and they can also look like percentages. But when it comes to finding lowest common denominators, you're looking for a relationship between all of your denominators, and in this particular case they are all factors of 12, including 12 itself. 12 can go into itself one time. Okay, all right, see you later.